Hola, clase. Hoy vamos a aprender los verbos con preposiciones. All right, guys. So today we're going to talk about using verbs with prepositions. So you're already familiar with a lot of prepositions like in, a, con, de. Today we're going to talk about when to use those prepositions with certain verbs and when you don't need to use them. All right, so as you've studied Spanish and as you've listened to people speak in Spanish or you've read things, you've probably noticed that some verbs almost always need a preposition in Spanish, and sometimes they need a specific preposition all the time. On the other hand, some verbs in Spanish almost never need a preposition. And even though we might use a preposition in English, in Spanish, they just kind of drop the preposition. They don't use it at all, or maybe the preposition kind of gets added into the verb. And then other verbs can kind of go back and forth. Sometimes they need a preposition, and sometimes they don't need a preposition. Or they might even need one preposition one time and then need a different preposition another time. And then that kind of changes the meaning of that verb. So we're going to look at a few examples of this. Here's some ejemplos. So the verb ir almost always needs the preposition a. So voy a la casa de mi hermano. You'll notice that that is a verb that almost always needs the preposition a. Another verb, montar, almost always takes the preposition in. So, un ejemplo, Gabriela monta en caballo. So those are just two examples of verbs that almost always take a preposition. And in these two cases, they usually take the same preposition. Here's an example of a verb that does not need a preposition in Spanish. En la playa, los niños buscan caracoles. So at the beach, the children search for shells. Now in English, we would say they search for shells, right? We wouldn't just say they search shells. But you'll notice in Spanish, we don't need para. We wouldn't say los niños buscan para caracoles. We just say buscan caracoles. The last two examples show the same verb when it needs the preposition a and when it doesn't need the preposition a. So ellos aprendieron a patinar en hielo, and ellos aprendieron inglés en la escuela bilingüe. So you're probably wondering, how do you know when to use the preposition with the Spanish verb and when not to? And once you know that a verb needs a preposition, how do you know which preposition to choose? So the goal of the lesson today is to talk about specific verbs that need prepositions and when to use them and when not to. Here's something to give you an idea of just how many verbs need prepositions. So just for the preposition a, these are some of the common verbs that need the preposition a. If you go online and type in any preposition, de or con, a, any of these prepositions, you'll find a list of all the different verbs that take that specific preposition. So the trick is to just take one verb at a time, because when you look at a list like that, it's daunting to think that you could know every single one of those verbs and have them all memorized. We're just going to look at the important ones today, and you don't have to worry about all of the other ones that you don't know yet. So today, the goal is to learn about 4 verbs that can use prepositions. So the first verb that we're going to look at is the verb acabar, which means to finish or to end. So you'll see here that acabar can be followed by another verb, a verb infinitive, or it can be followed by a noun. So when it's followed by a verb, it needs the preposition de. So some ejemplos. Mi familia y yo acabamos de comer. My family and I finished eating. Acabo de estudiar. I finished studying. Both cases here, you need the preposition de, and the second verb is not conjugated. You'll notice that it's left in the infinitive form. Acabar, when followed by a noun, does not need a preposition. So, el estudiante acaba la tarea. Here, since la tarea is a noun, we don't use the preposition de. Acabo mi clase en mayo. Again, clase is a noun, mi clase, so we don't need to have the preposition de. Aprender is the second verb that we'll look at, and it means to learn. So aprender a plus infinitive. When aprender is followed by a verb, it needs the preposition a. Tú aprendas a cocinar, or mis primos aprendieron a volar. When aprender is followed by a noun, you don't need a preposition. Nosotros estamos aprendiendo español. Usted aprende las artes marciales. The verb comenzar means to begin or start. When comenzar is followed by a verb, it needs the preposition a. Yo comienzo a correr. José comienza a surfear. When comenzar is followed by a noun, you don't need a preposition. Mi hermano comenzó sus quehaceres. Or Maya comienza el día. The last verb we'll look at today is the verb dejar, which means several different things. It can mean to stop, leave, forget, or others. Dejar de plus a verb means to stop doing something, and we do need to use the preposition de to connect dejar with the verb that follows it. So yo dejo de estudiar. I stopped studying. Or yo dejo de comer. I stopped eating. Dejar plus noun does not need the preposition de. So if a noun follows the verb dejar, we don't need the preposition de. Dejé mi país el año anterior. I left my country last year. Dejo la llave en la mesa. I left the key on the table. Lo siento mucho. Dejo mi celular en mi casa. I'm very sorry. I forgot my cell phone in my house. As you can see, if you use the de, then it means I stopped studying when followed by a verb. I stopped doing something. And if you don't use the de, it can change in meaning. Either I left a place, I left something somewhere, or in the right context, it could even mean that you actually forgot something, like you left it and you didn't mean to leave it. Here's a helpful rule for you. Whenever a verb comes after a preposition, it's never going to be conjugated. So it'll always be in the infinitive form. You just leave it alone. So, por ejemplo, el joven aprende a cocinar. Cocinar gets left in the infinitive form. Yo comienzo a trabajar. Ustedes acaban de caminar. So whenever a verb follows a preposition, it gets left in its infinitive form. Another thing I want to point out as we wrap up here is that you can always look for patterns. So if you'll notice, there was a pattern with the 4 verbs that we looked at today. Whenever one of those verbs was followed by another verb, we needed to use a preposition. Whenever one of the 4 verbs was followed by a noun, we did not need to use a preposition. So in the case of these 4 verbs, you can notice that pattern, and that will help you memorize when to use a preposition and when not to. So that's all I have for you guys today. Adios, amigos, and I hope you have a great day.